Welcome back into the mental game, where this week's guest is Gabby Petito's dad, Joe.
It hurts. It hurts a lot. But I know nothing's going to hurt me more than a phone call that I got on September 19th, 2021. And so if I can get through that, there's nothing I can't get through.
And in this episode, Joe opens up about the tragic loss of his daughter, but why he will never stop sharing Gabby's story and how they're raising awareness for millions and millions across the world, saving lives with the Gabby Petito Foundation. All of that and so much more in this amazing conversation. But first, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I'm talking to you because, look, we have to be comfortable sharing our feelings and taking care of our mental health. And that's why I want you to go to mantherapy.org today to find amazing tools and resources to take the best care of your mental health. Also, I want to let everyone watching and listening know some of this could be triggering with domestic violence. So I want to give you the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE or text START to 8878 if you need help right now. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with Joe Petito. Welcome back into the mental game, where I am sitting down with a very special guest. We just met on the phone last week. I'm already interviewing you now. Gabby Petito's dad, Joe. Joe, thanks so much for coming on the mental game.
No, listen, thank you for having me. I appreciate the call and taking the time. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I called you and we had never met. And when you answered the phone, you were like, I don't know why you want me to come on the podcast, but I think the reason why you said out loud, I'd love for you to just start off with that. It's because mental health connects, domestic violence, it connects with everything.
Well, yeah. So we look at it this way. If you want to lower statistics for, say, the murder rate, right? That you help domestic violence. You want to lower the suicide rate, help domestic violence. You want to lower the addiction rate, domestic violence, substance abuse, help domestic violence. A lot of that stuff funnels towards domestic violence, and the more that we make people aware, and the more that we make people understand that it's okay, that there's no shame in being, in a situation like that, but there's good ways to get out, and that's what we want to make people aware of.
Well, the advocacy work that you guys are doing, all four parents, is one of, I think, the most beautiful things that I've seen since Gabby's passing. Obviously, I want to talk about her life, her smile, her light. We're sitting behind or in front of a painting that she absolutely loved. Your guys' house is just flooded with so many pictures of the family. With the mental game, though, the first thing I ask everyone is, what does mental health mean to you? And I'm sure that has changed a lot in the last 4 to 5 years. For you, what does mental health mean?
Well, it has changed a lot. I guess was raised more of the men don't cry.
Same here, yeah.
You don't show your emotions, stuff along those lines. And since this situation happens, Tara, my wife, turned around and says, we're going to go to therapy. I want to make sure that you talk to someone. And we started doing that. And it helped me in more ways than just coping with what happened, but I guess other things that happened in my past that I've never addressed. And there should be no shame in going to therapy or saying that you have a therapist. And if anybody tries to make fun of that or tease you about that, then that's not a person you need to have in your life.
Yeah, I grew up the same way as you, where even at my lowest 3 years ago, my dad told me to be a man, some other choice words. I think that's how a lot of the world viewed mental health. And so it's changed. Your view on it has changed. Like going to therapy, that's something that you didn't do before all of this happened with Gabby, right?
No, my wife came to me and she's like, we need to talk to somebody. The children need to talk to somebody. We want to make sure that everyone has gets their feelings out. And so she kind of forced me to it. My therapist, she was great. I was not forthcoming off the start. Took me a few sessions to really get into it, to build that trust. My son had one, and he didn't, I guess that trust was broken pretty quickly.
Sure.
And so we found him someone new. Finding someone, whether it be online, I understand there's a lot of Zoom ways to do it now, so there's a lot more access to more therapists.
Yeah.
Is very beneficial. And I've done it both ways. So I just encourage everyone to start. And if anyone tries to diminish or demean you for going, that's a toxicity you don't need, because getting feelings out is important. You can't, it's like a drop in a bucket. Eventually that bucket's going to overflow.
Yeah. And that vulnerability, I think, especially as being a man, it's a strength, not a weakness. And so I agree with everything that you just said, but it takes us a while sometimes because our life change, things happen. With you, you and Nicole, Gabby's mom, you guys were together young, figured out we're probably better just friends, split when Gabby was 5-6 months old. Having a child that young and knowing to make Gabby the priority between you two, what was that experience like? How was it early on in Gabby's life?
Well, yeah, so I was 20 when Gabby was born, and before she was born, my mother, I remember it vividly. We were in the driveway and she came up, I was in the driver's seat. She came up to my window because I was leaving, and she's like, "Hey, listen, I need for you to understand something. You're going to have to make a choice soon. You can be an asshole or you can be a man. You cannot be both when it comes to this child. So you're going to need to decide which way you want to go." And yeah, it really wasn't a decision for me. I knew what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I'm going to be a dad, and I got to make things work. That's how I got into, the line of work I'm in, and with sales and stuff like that. But we knew putting Gabby first was going to be the best way to raise her. And that's what we did. And my wife, Tara, she's been in Gabby's life since she was 1. Jim's been in Gabby's life since she was 2. And I've never not looked at Gabby as if they weren't theirs, and always did everything they could to make sure that Gabby was loved. And she was. Listen, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Because holidays are difficult, Once we knew holidays were starting to take a toll on Gabby, because, like we would do, all right, I'll drop her off, I'll have a Christmas Eve with my family, and then someone will bring her there Christmas Eve night. So now she's got to leave with the gifts, and it's just, she didn't want to leave the people because she was playing. Like, we knew it was difficult. So we went to family court one day and set up a alternating holiday schedule. And we're like, listen, we just want a part of the record. You know what I mean? Like, we were always good together in terms of making sure Gabby was a priority, and never really wavered from that.
Well, you guys, you two, the two-step parents, 4 together, I think from Gabby's tragedy, people looking on the outside, I told you this before we started rolling, and Tara's here too, sitting over to our right. You could tell that all 4 of you loved Gabby an equal amount, and the way that you have come together and worked together before she passed and after, and that purpose that you have together with the foundation. I just want to let you know, from everyone I've talked to and me personally, you can feel that just talking and watching you guys.
And I appreciate it, and that's very nice. You know what I mean? To us, it's just part of our everyday that we've done for 20 plus years. You know what I mean? It really, like, listen, it wasn't always sunshine and roses. We would have disagreements, you know what I mean, on how things should be done and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it really was about her. And I mean, listen, my wife is amazing. Jim is amazing when it comes to that stuff. And if we encourage others, if you're going to use a child as a pawn, or if that person you're with doesn't love the child as if they were their own, that's got to be, you have to look at it from the child's perspective. That's got to be difficult for them to accept. Yeah. And if you love your child, you'll put them first.
I think one of the things that people fell in love with Gabby was that smile, that personality, that energy. Was she always like that? Did you see her come out of her shell at a certain point in life where she just became that big ball of energy and happiness?
No, she was like it from the start. She really was. She, she could just meet you. She'd grab you by the hand, and say, let's go find some seashells on the beach or something like that. You know what I mean? Because we're all hanging out. She was always just down. Gab, we're going to go do this today. All right. You know what I mean? We're going to go here today. All right. Didn't really wasn't that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Oh, we're going to go drive here and it's going to take 3 hours to get there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. She just enjoyed as much as she could, you know, always taking pictures, always drawing, doodling, doing that stuff. And yeah, she was always very easy when it came to that.
For you guys, as kids get older, I understand this from you know, my own life. I'm 31 now, but go through school, high school, dating starts to happen, things change, and you have bigger ambitions when it comes to maybe job. You know, I wanted to be a sports reporter, got to live that out. When did the, you know, goal of I don't know if she necessarily wanted to be a content creator, but wanting to kind of live this free spirit life on the road, be able to document that, which I think looking back was pretty popular at the time. Do you think that was like her goal of that next chapter?
Gabby always, like I said, was that kind of like that free type of, you know, listen, you're not going to hold me back. I'm going to do what I kind of want to do. And, you know, I want to enjoy every moment. Like that was really what she was about. So it didn't surprise me that this is what was going to happen, you know, as she got older. Tara and I traveled a lot. Nikki and Jim would travel a lot. You know what I mean? So she always got to see some really cool places. And I think COVID, you know, a little bit before COVID, she wanted to travel the country. I think COVID was the like, you know, everything's shut down. We're stuck in our house.
Right. What are you going to do?
You know, let's try and make this a go. And I'm going to show people what's out there, you know, and it was just really cool. She had a plan. She really executed it as best she could. Listen, as a parent, you know, did I like the choices? No. You know what I mean? Yeah. But did I get them? Yeah, listen, I was jealous of him too. You know what I mean? Seeing the country, you know, at that young age where you get to do the stuff that like you get to certain places. Like I'm going to go ski in Aspen. Like, dude, I'm 47, man. My knees hurt.
Can't do it.
You know? Like, wait a minute. What's going on? You know, so you're envious of them, some of that stuff. So I got it too, you know, and I encourage people now from the lessons that I've learned since is that you get one shot. Take the trip, take the family time, take the pictures, take the videos, because you never know when that's going to be what you got. Yeah, you know, and so that's important. That's important. I mean, you said you're in your 30s now. You know, are there trips that you haven't taken that you're like, man, I want to get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that's for me, and I want this to be about Gabby and her story, but I find something maybe in common is like, I did have that same or do have that same goal, ambition. I've done it, you know, with speaking and with sports reporting. But yeah, I've never taken a trip with anyone ever. Like I've never had a +1 at a wedding. I've never gone on vacation with someone. So like I would love to do that one day. I think that's kind of where my head's at. But it's not something where it's like my constant everyday. The old me that was very depressed and struggling with that wasn't the free spirit. Was like, man, I'm never going to have that. I'm never going to be happy. Now I'm like, all right, I'm living my thing. And if I get to do something maybe like what she had in mind with her significant other, that's great one day. If not, I'm cool on my own.
I get it. Yeah, you only get one shot, right?
Yeah.
Try and make it as best you can. You know, enjoy every day. What was the Jim Valvano? Right? You laugh every day, cry every day, love every day, right? Have a full day. You know, I mean, that's great advice.
It is, and I think your daughter was living by that. And when she had the idea of the trip, you know, with Brian to go out and see the world, I mean, it can be tough to live this back. So one, thank you for being open with me and wanting to have that discussion, because we'll say it a bunch during this. It can help other people. And that's why we're doing this, having this conversation. When did you meet Brian? Did you guys think they were friends? Like, what kind of, I don't know, dial did you have on him?
I got introduced to Brian as a boyfriend when she brought him to our house, you know, and he was respectful and stuff like that. But I never liked the boyfriends because I know what they're looking for, especially at the young age, you know. Correct. And you know, I wanted to make sure that it's going to be a relationship that's respectful and caring and equal. You know what I mean? Like, it's very important. Listen, I'm with my wife. She's my partner. You know what I mean? She's, you know, we joke it's equal, but it's more than 60-40. Like she's the boss. Yeah. You know, I think I think there's a comedian, I forget who it was. But he's like, I'm like the assistant manager of the house. You know what I mean? You know, like, because she did it. She's amazing. She does much more than I can ever do in a day. But you want to make sure that there's that equal, you know, everyone's just as important, and supportive. And yeah, that's what we got. I wanted to make sure she had that. And it's a shame of what happened. If we could always go back, you know what I mean? You're always going to play the woulda, shoulda, coulda. But now with the foundation, and the stuff that we're doing, our sole focus is to help as many people as possible. It really is.
For you, looking back on when they left for that trip, were you excited for? Because it was something that maybe, like we talked about, you travel so much. Were you worried? What was your initial thought when
you're always worried as a parent?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Listen, she can be skateboarding down the road. You're going to be worried as a parent. You know what I mean? You just, that's never going to stop, But she was over 18. I can't hold her back.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kidnapping at that point. I'm not going to do that. You try and guide them and be supportive, and you try and let them make their mistakes so they can learn from certain things. Again, woulda, shoulda, coulda, but you got to make sure that people, enjoy and do the things that you want to do, because you do only get one shot. Do what you want. Be safe. Make a plan. But don't let your fear stop you from doing something that you would love to be doing.
Well, she didn't have that fear. She wanted to live on the road and do this and capture the videos. And like you said, that's just the amazing memories that you're able to have of her from that. Getting into later on in that trip in 2021, was there a moment or a day that you just felt like something wasn't right, whether it was not getting a text or not getting a call, where you go, something feels different?
So, well, Nikki had called me and said, listen, we haven't heard from her. And we had just moved. So I guess I had been down here since June in terms of Florida. Yeah. And because we had just moved, because we wanted to be closer to her, and we hated the snow.
Yeah, sure.
I can't do, air should not hurt your face, man,
I agree.
So we had just been down here. I'm learning a new territory and stuff like that. My wife and my 2 boys came down just a couple weeks before all this went down.
Yeah.
So they just starting school and all this stuff. So it was, Nikki had called me up, but Gabby was always talking to her brothers, Tara, Jim, all of us, you know what I mean? So if I didn't hear from her for a couple of days, I just, someone did, and Nikki had called me up. She's like, I haven't heard from Gabby, what have you gone? I was like, let me start calling. So started calling her, weren't getting anywhere. Then we just started calling the next day, all the national parks, hospitals, any place that she would be. And then we started trying to report her missing, because that wasn't happening. And that took a while. Yeah. That was something that was difficult to do. Nikki was finally able to get it. And that's when the shit hit the fan.
This is a parent's worst nightmare, what happened to your daughter, I think. In that moment, I'm sure it's a blur for you, Nicole, all 4 of you together as parents. How did you even process what was happening in that moment, that your daughter's missing? All of a sudden, Brian comes home with the van too. Did you feel fear, anger, a combination of all of that? I mean, can you even describe those few days?
So I guess the initial feeling was fear. But then when we got her reported missing and found out, Brian was home with the van and Gabby was not, and he's got an attorney, anger really starts to set in, not being able to run there, and bang on a door and get him out of the house and all that fatherly stuff. Because, now there's cops involved and FBI involved, and I wouldn't be able to do the job if I was sitting in a jail cell. And we had to find her, and we weren't getting help. So really, we just bonded together. What do we do? We got to get a name out there. This is how we do it. We call as many news organizations, as many websites. We're going to create flyers. We're just going to start, grassroots, doing what we can, as much as we can. And social media, listen, we're very fortunate to have, friends and family and stuff, and, that producers or work at, news stations and stuff, and had some connections that assisted with that.
Sure.
And that's when things started to snowball. But it wasn't until the Moab video came out, where everything just blew up from there. That was really the catalyst that you saw as sent it all, over the planet.
That body cam video, you have not watched the whole thing, which is much longer than what people see on the news or on social media. Did your heart sink in a different way when you heard or saw your daughter's reaction to some of those questions? And
it kills me. It absolutely, it hurts me to my core when I see stuff. Because when I do interviews and stuff, like we were doing one the other day, and they'll cut to a part of the video, they always cut to it, and it's always the same one, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. But I know nothing's going to hurt me more than a phone call that I got on September 19th, 2021. And so if I can get through that, there's nothing I can't get through. Nothing will hurt me more than that phone call that I got. So anything else that happens after that, I can deal with.
That phone call, Jim is in Wyoming helping with the search for Gabby. But you guys are a unit. You guys are always communicating, all four of you. What do you remember about that phone call? Were you with Tara at the time, or Nicole, or both? How did you guys receive that news and call?
Yeah, so Jim, we all wanted to go to Wyoming and start looking. The FBI asked us to stay, Tara and I stay here, because everything was, I guess, running out of the Tampa part of the FBI, so they wanted us here. Nikki was in New York, and because that's where everything started, they wanted her there. And Jim says, like, I'm just going to Wyoming. I don't, he didn't care. But we were fortunate because there's four of us. We had the ability to do that because we are just one unit. You know what I mean? But it was, I don't know how he did it. Jim making that phone call. That I don't know if I would have. I'm pretty confident I wouldn't have the strength to have made that phone call, and he did. And I was here with Tara, and I had a friend of mine that was here as well, kind of helping out and stuff like that. Tara had a cousin here that was helping out. We had a great support system, but to be honest, I really don't remember the call. I don't. I mean, I remember it, but I don't want to remember it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like I don't want to recall that memory. I just know I got past it.
Yeah.
And now, helping others and focusing on doing stuff for others, legislatively, education-wise, just sitting and listening, is kind of what we want to do now. And that's almost therapy to us at this point in time. Yeah. It helps. It does.
When you have that feeling, and I can imagine that all four of you, that was a blur. You had anger because of Brian coming home, the attorney thing. You had questions. Now you have an answer and grief. That next step of that, when you see from all the social media pieces being put together, what you know from the FBI, what you know from Jim being out there and him calling, did that grief set in immediately? Did you have a gut feeling of that call coming one day? Or how do you process all of that when it is so heart-wrenching, emotional, traumatic?
So I'm not naive to the fact of how these stories end, especially the way hers played out. But you have hope, listen, we just posted a few stories not too long ago. A person was missing for almost 20 years. You know what I mean? Another one's missing a few years. You had a young woman who went missing at the age of 15 and came back at she went to the police station at 18. I'm 18. I'm no longer missing. You know what I mean? Because she didn't like her home life, And
yeah.
So you always have hope that something along those lines would be the case. But you're not naive to the fact of how these stories end. So we had we kind of knew in the back of our head, hey, listen, this is a distinct possibility. But you don't let that, because that'll eat you alive.
Yeah.
You have to have hope. And we did. We really, really did. And until she was found, and I don't know how families do it, the Daniel Robinson family. I don't know if you know that story, his father, David. I'm actually going to be in Arizona on April 12th, helping him do a search, the Holloways, you know what I mean? I remember, and we already knew Gabby was gone, but I remember being in a restaurant and it was fresh, probably a week or two afterwards. And I'm just sitting at the table with my wife and some family, and there's a table in the distance, a blonde girl with her back to me, you know what I mean? And you're like, it just hurts, I'm much more emotional now, which is a side effect I didn't think would happen. But yeah, so now I cry at the dumbest of shit. So there's that. Like TikToks will make me cry. Before, no, it's fine. You know what I mean? I can hold that in.
Yeah.
Now, it could be a freaking commercial, for shampoo, and I'm like, oh. We were watching it. She was watching Love Is Blind, and I had come in just to be the annoying husband. My wife, and she was watching it, and I came in to be the annoying husband and just be stupid, and because that's what I do, And I looked at the TV, and you see a dad walking her daughter down the aisle, and I lost it. I just ugly cry, bawling. You know what I mean? For like a good 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And I wasn't used to that. It came out of nowhere. I couldn't control it. And not being ashamed of it. That took that therapy. Not like it's okay.
Mm-hmm. For you, is that maybe what hurts the most, thinking about things that you won't be able to do with Gabby? Because I've got to know you a little bit. You do put on that strong guy front. There's always jokes, maybe even masking some of those emotions.
I'm masking it now. Listen, I'll tell you right now, this is going to hurt. Like talking about this hurts.
Right. And I also want to set boundaries. There's something that's you're not willing to answer. You don't want to talk about. You don't have to.
Listen, if, like I said, nothing's going to hurt me more than that phone call on September 19th. Right. So we're going to take Gabby's story, all of it, and use it as a learning tool to help others. The more we can do, because then it's a waste if we don't.
Yeah.
We had an entire planet of people sending tips and going over stuff, you know what I mean? And it'd be a waste. And we're not the people to let that just go by. Thanks and wave. No, we're going to repay that. And that's our driving force. We get up every day with the foundation and do as much as we can. Tara and Nikki, I don't know how they do all the stuff that they do. I don't get it. You know what I mean? They have more hours in the day than everybody else, but they do it all. Jim does a ton. He's always in conferences and phone calls and working full time. And, I work full time. It's difficult, but we give every waking moment, and we're going to not stop. This is forever.
You found a purpose, and it's beautiful because you want to save lives with Gabby's story. I wanted to surprise you during this. So I just want to show you this video on my phone. I want you to hit play and just hold and watch it.
Hi, my name's Beth, and Gabby Petito saved my life.
Gabby Petito has definitely saved my life.
Gabby saved my life.
Gabby saved not only my life,
She wanted to make me cry.
but my kids.
This is for the point
Gabby's story changed my life.
Gabby's story has changed my life.
Around the time that Gabby's story hit the news, I was in an abusive relationship. I really strongly believe that if I did not leave, his abuse would have escalated to physical and he would have hurt me or killed me.
2 weeks before Gabby went missing, I was strangled on my own bed by my ex-boyfriend.
I got out of a 7-year-long abusive relationship with my ex-husband just 2 weeks postpartum.
I knew that if I didn't do something, that my children, I would not make it out alive.
I was being actively abused by a man that had gotten me pregnant. I had been hospitalized numerous times, and he had attempted to take my life.
After 3 years of emotional and physical abuse, I realized that I needed to leave before it was too late.
And because of Gabby's documentary, I have committed to being an advocate for domestic violence and not just a victim.
It really inspired me and pushed me to decide what I want to do with my life, and I'm actually working on getting my domestic violence victim advocacy certification.
It showed me there are so many others that are just like me and that I'm not alone.
Gabby saved so many lives, and if it wasn't for her, I would not be here today.
And to Gabby's parents, I'm always praying for you guys and for you guys' healing.
Thank you so much for advocating for her. Thank you for advocating for other domestic violence victims. Thank you for never giving up on her.
Her light continues to shine. I mean, just look at all of us survivors who are finally feeling brave enough to speak out.
I really don't think you've realized the impact that you've had on a lot of women just like Gabby. There's a lot of us out there that resonated with her and felt her pain.
But I just want you to know she's still to this day doing work to save other lives.
Her story will live on, and I know she lives on through everybody she's helped and everybody she will continue to help.
Every single time her story is shared, a life is going to be saved. I wholeheartedly believe that, and I know that that is happening because she saved my life and she has saved so many other people's lives.
I worked really hard not crying on camera for like 4 years. I want to let you know that. I worked really hard on that, man. Shit.
I, without you knowing, went on Reddit, went on TikTok, went on Instagram, and tried to find those videos that make you cry when you see maybe that song that everyone uses. And I just asked people that I had no idea, never met them before. These aren't videos that I pulled off TikTok. These are videos, and I'm going to give you all of the raw videos from 20 plus women who say that Gabby's story, seeing it on the news, saved their life or let them leave the relationship that was abusive and change their life.
I'd like their emails if contact, so I can write them and say thank you.
I will 100% do that. I know that they're going to see this because I told them I wanted to send it to them too. What would you like to say to them after they thanked you? They just genuinely wanted to thank you. Because these are stories that aren't on the internet. These are stories that they wanted you to have personally.
It means a lot. I can't tell you what it means because there's not a word in my vernacular to really express that. Because the work that we do is so passion driven. We do it for that. Because maybe, and I've said it before, man, like, God willing, if I get to see her again, and the first thing I'm going to ask is, did we make you proud? And I'm hoping that I can. I'm hoping I can make her proud. I don't think I've achieved it yet. You know what I mean? But I think I'm on the right path to getting there. I know there's a lot of work we can do, but it takes a lot of us. It takes all of us. And we were talking about it before, right? Like, I used to think it blew up on social media because it was race generated, or the story, the murder story, you know what I mean? Or the parents not cooperating. Like, there was a whole, true crime drama unfolding in real life. And that's a big, I guess, area that people like to concentrate in and stuff. So I didn't know really what it was. But after the Netflix documentary, I saw a ton of videos. I mean, a ton. People were sending them to us. We got hundreds of thousands of emails. And I think people saw themselves with that Moab video. Like, they saw themselves being, and they didn't see Gabby. They saw themselves. And seeing these women, men, children come out and say, I got out, or, it saved me and stuff like that. Like, I want people to continue telling their stories, whether Gabby helped you or not. The more we help amplify people's stories, it lets others know when it comes to domestic violence, there's a better tomorrow for you. Mm-hmm. There's a safe way you have to get out. Don't just leave, because that's the most dangerous time. Talk to somebody. We always give the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE. You can text help to 88788 and start that conversation, because every situation is unique, mm-hmm. and it's important to figure out what is the safest way to leave in your specific situation. So, but keep telling your story so people get inspired to put themselves first finally and get out of those situations, and get rid of that stigma of the shame of being a victim. The only person that should have shame is the abuser. That is where it belongs. Shame them.
For you, I didn't do this for the goal of making you cry on camera.
4 years I worked on that, man.
I did it because, and look, my life stories on the internet, I've been through a lot as well. I don't cry. I don't get teared up. I'm on an airplane from New York City last night, crying on a plane, putting that together. You mentioned wanting to make Gabby proud. If you got to have a conversation with her again, and God willing, you will. What are you going to tell her? When you think of something like that, you think about the videos that you get. Her life, she's not here now, but she's saving so many lives because they saw themselves in that video.
If I get to talk to her again, she's going to know that because she's watching, right? That means she's watching. So I don't think I would go over that. I would tell her about, the boys. I would tell her, and how much they missed her, and, she needs to continue showing them the signs that she's still there, and because it wasn't just Tara, Nikki, and Jim and I that lost out. Gabby was one of 6. You know what I mean? This is she's got brothers and sisters that miss her tremendously, even to this day. And it hurts sometimes. And the signs helps. It's like, to me, it's butterflies. I'll be out on a golf course. I play golf a lot, and I'll see a butterfly run. Just fly by, and I'm instantly just calm down. It's just I'm okay. Just stuff like that, and it helps. It does.
On the mental health side of things, for you, the family, the kids, you, Tara, Jim, Nicole, how did you not go into a hole and maybe go back to some of those ways that we grew up, especially as men, with our mental health, to bury those emotions? Because, and justifiably, parents struggle with this all the time if they have to live this nightmare like you do. How did you not go into a hole and be at that rock bottom? Or were you there at some point and you were able to get pulled out because of the people around you?
I had thoughts and stuff like that, but it was really, listen, and my wife, I can't tell you, probably the strongest woman I've ever met. You know what I mean? Just having to deal with that tragedy and stuff, and really just taking the family by the horns, and listen, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna talk to people. We're gonna be there for one another. Be the support system that everyone needs.
Yeah.
She really just dove headfirst into that. And we just followed her lead. I reluctant, like I said, with therapy. I went because she made the appointment.
Right.
And it really, when I'm down, Nikki or Jim, they'll text. You know what I mean? It really, the support system is needed. And if you don't have that support system, there are numbers to call to find a support system. There's groups in a lot of neighborhoods that you can go to. And I know it sounds cliche. I know people think that it doesn't help, but it does.
Yeah.
So like, when people say, at least they can get closure now, because they have answers. Fuck you. I'm sorry to curse. That's horrible.
You can.
But I say that internally. Outside, I say, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Inside, there's no closure on the death of a child.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to bury your children. You know what I mean? It's forever things that I'm going to miss out. Listen, I'm never going to be able to walk her down the aisle. I'm never going to see the first grandkid, from her. I'm never going to see the joys of her being a mother. You know what I mean? There's things that I'm not going to be able to see that were taken. And having that support system or finding a support system to talk about those things and people that understand because they went through it. Gabby's story is not unlike so many others.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 5 men, 10 to 20 million children a year. Those are the numbers. That's a fact. And when men talk about domestic violence, I think they're a victim of domestic violence. People laugh at them.
Yeah.
You talk about shelters. There's only 1,400 plus shelters in the United States. There's over almost 3,500 animal shelters, right? So why do we have double the amount? And a lot of them don't take men. So if you're a victim, a male victim, what do you do? So there's got to be resources for everyone. It's being more talked about now. Same-sex, relationships. Domestic violence tend to be higher than the average rate. You know what I mean? So having an education program talking about, just the violence end of it.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But there's so many variables of domestic violence: financial abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse. And talking about it and learning about it and understanding the signs and how to or where to go when you're in that situation. It's not unlike mental health.
Yeah.
If you have a mental health issue, there are places to go. There are resources. I always try to give the 988 number.
Yep.
I know there is other numbers that or resources more locally that you and I were talking about before. So there's, man, the more information we can give out, or the more resources we can let people know that they have available to them at their disposal, I think is key to lowering the suicide rate, lowering the domestic violence rate, lowering the murder rate, lowering the substance abuse.
Yeah.
If there's a substance abuse, there's a lot more that goes into it than just having an addictive personality. There could be, underlying trauma or something along the lines you haven't dealt with. And it's okay. It's okay. We'll talk about it. Let's figure it out, and like you said, you have your story and you made those steps. And I mean, that is a beautiful thing, and now you're going out and helping other people. So you have this thing where you're showing life after that and how good it can be. Man, I checked you out before you came on. I did not think I was worthy of the people that you interviewed. You know what I mean? Like, I saw your list, of interviews. Like, I don't fit that criteria.
You're Terry Crews, Kevin Gates. You're the same.
Dude, ask my wife. I'm an idiot. I do dumb shit every day, but I don't think I fit, but getting that message out there and teaching people and showing people and letting people know that this is what they got. You're doing the exact same thing and you're saving lives, and together is how we're going to make that huge dent. And that's the thing. And I think that's really cool for you even taking the time to come talk to us.
Well, thank you for saying that. I believe, and we both believe, that talking saves lives. And so one of the biggest things with mental health, and you learned this with that body cam video and the documentary and the reaction by people seeing herself and Gabby, relatability is one of the biggest things when it comes to mental health, because you don't think you have anything in common with those guests that I've had on the show or people in the crowd at the events that I speak at. I don't think they do. But every single person struggles. It doesn't matter if it's Gabby, it's you, it's Tara, it's big time celebrities, it's NFL players. We all go through shit. We all struggle.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think having conversations like this, I'll be honest, this is not a conversation that I've had before. It's not something I was working with some of my friends that do work for maybe the Today Show and NBC News and places that you have been, and go, how do I ask this? How do I do it respectfully? How do we have this conversation? But every single person, and it was a handful that I talked to, I gave that quote that you did in the beginning of domestic violence. If we can stop that, it can stop suicide. It can stop addiction. It can stop murder.
It's not the cure-all, but it'll help diminish those numbers significantly.
It can, and that's why I think both of us and everyone that works in something and has a passion, has a purpose, is doing that. And so the foundation, it's not this big operation that somebody else is running. It's the 4 parents. You guys have a board. You have people that are willing to volunteer and help. But what you're doing with that, I think, and just to go back to my story for a quick tiny bit in this, I wish I didn't go through the pain that I went through, and I'm sure you, Forrest, feel the same. But you are now serving a purpose that you did not know and maybe not want to serve. I didn't want to serve it either. But you are saving lives. You do have a purpose. That's why you do this, right?
It's the only reason why we do it. Listen, I lived in a bubble before. I had, and you can talk to my wife, she'll tell you, I had a saying, good things happen to good people. I try and be good every day, try and be better every day, and those things didn't happen to us. And here we are now I'm in it, and we are solely focused on helping people. You know what I mean? We want to get everyone the same attention Gabby's story got. We got, there's a show that we're trying to come out with called Faces of the Missing, right? It's by Boundless Films and Backlot Productions. This amazing person, Dana Ritchie, came to me with Elaine Aradias and Francisco Lucarelli, and came to us and said, hey, listen, we're going to do this show for missing people, right? And we want to get the true crime, community involved. We want them to be, and we want it to be interactive. We want to send them files, you know what I mean? Have the way they can download and create these sleuths and cases and help out as much as they can with everybody's story, and they came to me with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and said, listen, we're going to do some stories that you don't normally see on the mainstream media, because everybody's story deserves the same attention. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to do it this way. And it's just, we want to make sure that everyone that helped us keep getting the help. We would love to see celebrities do things that they don't normally. I mean, I know they donate. I know they have these amazing foundations and programs. And
I get
it's
it.
so cool that they do all this stuff. But if they could just once a month share a missing person flyer, you know, if they got 6 to 10 million followers, you know what I mean, and or plus, you know, and then those followers reshare it, and they get those faces out there.
Yeah,
that makes a significant difference, you know, and especially to the family.
Yeah,
you know, you said you have roommates. You live with people, right?
No, I live in a guest house behind a family.
Right,
yes, so
if you've ever had it, like, you know, you had a bunch of people over, whatever, and you misplaced your keys and you got to run somewhere and it's very time sensitive that you go.
Yeah.
And you can't find your keys. And everyone's sitting on their butts, focusing on themselves, facing their phones or whatever. No one's helping you.
Yeah.
After like 10, 15 minutes, you're going to start getting pissed.
Yeah.
Like, yo, guys, get up. I need some
Let's
help.
go. I need help.
I need help. Get off the couch. Check. I'm not sitting on it. There's no trust here anymore, buddies. Get up. All right. I want to make sure you're not sitting on it. You know, like, so now you put that where it's a person and you absolutely, you know, can't be without that person. How much more are you going to do? You know, and in those situations, you got to adapt really quick to being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're going to be put in situations and talk about things that you might not want to talk about. And you need to, because the more information you can put out there to help find your person, that's important, you know, and we're going to do it together. The only way it can be done is together. You know, me putting a flyer out there does nothing unless other people share it.
Right.
So if you can get people like, you know, like that, like, you know, a larger platform to start sharing these once a month, have news organizations stop showing the B-roll, as they call it, shuffling the papers while they back away from the desk, you know what I mean, right before they go to commercial. 3, 4, 5 seconds, put up a missing person flyer. Why don't news organizations have a missing person link on their websites? Because it's those families that are watching, you know, those that are watching the commercials and clicking the links that, you know, that for their sites and stuff.
Right.
That's the way to give back in that respect. Celebrities are always going on and selling their clothing line or their liquor or their movie, their show. And again, I know they donate, they do amazing foundation work. I understand it, but just a quick, they don't even have to be the ones to do it. Have an assistant if you have one do it. You know, just one. Doesn't matter their color. Doesn't matter the story. Just share one. Inspire others to share. You see a big difference if that was to happen.
I can tell, and we spent about an hour before we started rolling, getting to know each other, hanging out, making fun of each other. But like, you have this drive in you. Is it just because you don't want any parent, any Gabby to ever go through what you went through?
It's yes, and more than that, it's more selfish, right? It's more mental than anything else. So there's only 2 ways you can go. You can go down the rabbit hole of the woe is me, or you can go, I'm going to turn this into something, and I'm going to do what I can to help as many people as I can, you know, and really make a difference, because we got to see some of the shortcomings or the gaps in the system.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go into that dark hole, because I know where that could have taken me. I got kids that I gotta care for and be there for and show them that there's, you know, you're stronger than you know. And so really focusing and channeling all my efforts into that and showing them that you're stronger than you can realize really makes a difference to me. And the more I do it, the less likely I am to go into that dark hole.
Well, you have found, again, a purpose that you didn't know that you had, but you guys are living it out to the fullest extent. Definitely making Gabby proud as she watches down on this. The Gabby Petito Foundation, you guys have done so much work changing laws, having maybe training coming up for police, for schools.
I want about the lethality assessment.
I would love to go into that, because that for me, just like a lot of things with mental health, until I hit my rock bottom, I had no idea how to take care of myself or anything when it came to different things that can help people. This lethality assessment is a game changer.
Well, it's yes, and it's been around for 20 years. You know, so the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence, Dr. Jill Campbell and Dr. Messing, they really put these 11 question scenarios together and figured out through what's called the Oklahoma study and how these questions should be asked, and and the method that they should be asked. But the questions aren't the deciding factor of being important, because it's the other half of that, the police, the first responders. They have to ask it in a certain way, and they have to have a partnership with an organization, because if you ask these questions to figure out if someone's in a lethal situation or not, and you determine based on those answers that they are, and you're not tied to a shelter or to a DV advocate, what are you going to do? You're just going to let them know? You know what I mean? You don't have any info to give them. That's not the help that you need. It's a partnership. Mm-hmm. The questions are the first step, and then it's the advocates afterwards coming and getting involved too. But asking those questions and having the partnership with the domestic violence shelter and organization and stuff like that has shown that the domestic violence homicide rate reduction by 70% in some areas.
Wow.
Even if that number was overinflated. Let's say I accidentally doubled it.
Yeah.
It's 35%. You know what I mean? So
it's still incredible.
That's still a huge reduction in domestic violence homicide rates. So now you're having people, live. You have more time for officers to spend on other cases of homicide and stuff like that, right?
Right.
You have so many more benefits. But here's the thing. Bringing the lethality assessment to the state. We helped bring it to Utah, right? There was, the lieutenant governor had a niece that was killed in a domestic violence incident. Her name was Mandy Main. It was a beautiful young girl who was killed way too young. And because someone in power had this ability to change laws and stuff like that, called us up and said, hey, listen, we have this program we would love to bring to the state of Utah. Would you help advocate for it? So we read it, this is amazing. Let me talk to the people who created it. So I called the Maryland Network and really got down into the program and stuff like that. And 100%, it's an 11 question questionnaire that it's a yes or no answers to. Once they're done asking the questions, they'll actually show the victim, their answers. And that's the most impactful part on the victims, because it's that disassociation of reading the answers back. Inside their head, they're seeing, well, I can't believe I answered it that way. Now, they know how they answered it publicly, but in their head, they know the truth, right? So you get that disassociation, oh my God. And once a lot of them don't call at that point in time. They're not talking to the advocate on the scene a lot of the times because they're abusers right there too, but they'll get the information. The officers will give them the resources or the information to begin finding out what resources you have in your area.
First step.
Yeah, that first step. The longest journey begins with a single step, right? That's the saying. So it really is that the partnership between the police, between the DV advocates and the shelters and stuff together, that's going to help make that reduction. So having the questions is great, but not having the questions with the other side of that coin isn't going to help. So if any state wants to do it, you can reach out, GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. We will help out. We will help advocate for it. We're doing it in a few other states already.
Florida have it
Florida,
done?
We just passed the law here in Florida to do the exact same thing. And then we chaired the committee to help roll it out to all the police. So we worked with the Florida Sheriff's Association, Florida Police Chiefs Association, DCF, the Department of Children and Family, the Florida Partnership to End Domestic Violence, and 2 other organizations as well. And we chaired that committee and we rolled it out. And the way we could do it to get the proper training to the police, we helped create it with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement as well.
Yeah.
Doing that all together. And we created a program that was amazing, and we're getting, like I said, doing it in other states. We have other countries that have reached out and that we're trying to partner with them too. So, and once those come to fruition, we'll kind of shout those out. So you can see that it's not just a USA problem. It's an everywhere problem. Yeah. So we were just talking about before, the British Prime Minister just the other day was saying how he watched adolescence with his children, and how he thinks it should be shown to, the youth in schools and stuff like that, because the way domestic violence is handled, even with the young people.
Yeah.
People don't want to talk about it. Oh, you can't say this in schools.
There's the stigma.
Oh, the kids are paying it. They have devices in their hand from like 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They know more than we believe them to know.
Right.
Don't be naive. Don't keep your head in the sand where they're like, oh, my child hasn't seen this yet. Maybe they haven't, but their friends might have. And you don't know if those are conversations that they're having. And you just keep your head in the sand. Probably isn't the best. There's a right and wrong way. And I'm not going to tell a family how to raise their family, but understand that there's information at their fingertips that they might not know is being read.
Right. It's the world of social media. It's changed since you and I were kids, and parents don't even know sometimes what kids are looking at on their phone. I think what you guys are doing with the foundation, trying to get laws changed, trying to get that lethality assessment training for police. You guys are also working on some programming where you guys are doing what I'm doing. You're going to schools. You're traveling all the time. I know that Nicole and Jim are doing that too.
They have a first responder program. We're building an education program for schools. That we want it free around the world. We want it in multiple languages, and so we're building that. It takes time to build it. And we want it to be inclusive. We want it to be using technology of people today. You know what I mean? Because the youth does a lot by video.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so really utilizing today's tools and technology. I can FaceTime someone on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason we can't use today's technology to help teach our kids, especially with the way that they learn so fast. It scares the hell out of me with the kids having the phones and access the way they do today.
Yeah.
And what that's got to do for your mental acuity, you know what I mean? And your mental, it's got to be troublesome, we haven't had to navigate the worlds that they do.
Yeah.
My kids can't Google their last name. If they Google their name, the first thing that pops up is their sister. You know what I mean? And I don't know how long that's going to be, but you know what? Things like that can impact them, and they're not going to talk to you about it.
Right.
One of the best pieces of advice I was given, me and my wife talked about this before, was from John Walsh. I don't know if you know who John Walsh is. He created the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Okay.
His son Adam Walsh went missing back in the 80s.
Okay.
And really has done a tremendous amount when it comes to missing people and stuff like that, especially 18 and under.
Yeah.
And he called us up one day and he's like, what you need to do is you need to go to your kids and let them know that it's okay for them to come to you, because they're going to try and protect you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to come to you and say that they're hurting, because they know that you're hurting. So if you don't go to them and say, I need you to come to me.
Right.
Because if you don't, I'm afraid of I'll be even more hurt if you don't.
Yeah.
You need to let them know that it's okay. And you're not hurting me anymore. You might be even helping me by coming to me and saying this stuff. And we hung up the phone, and it's literally like I think we sprinted into our kids' rooms, and we were like, we need to talk.
Joe and I have been really vulnerable in this episode, but it wasn't always like that for us about our mental health, because we both said it. Growing up as men, there was this big stigma when it came to showing your feelings. And if you're vulnerable, you're weak, when actually that vulnerability is a strength. And that's why I want to tell you about Man Therapy. Go to mantherapy.org today to find amazing tools and resources that are just for us men. They have this thing called their 18-point head inspection. It's a basic 2-minute test that asks you everyday questions about your personal life, work, your mental health, to give you the best resources to take care of you. Like I said, Joe and I both grew up where we were taught to just rub dirt in it and don't talk about how you're feeling, but you have to be vulnerable and you have to take care of your mental health. And that's why you should go to mantherapy.org today. Suicide can be tough to talk about, but that's why the Happiness Project is helping us break the stigma. After losing their classmate Nick, his friends knew they had to do something to help save lives. So the Happiness Project was born, a clothing brand to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention, with t-shirts and hoodies to start a conversation and let people know they are not alone. To learn more, follow @Happiness Project on social media and use the code MENTALGAME for 15% off your first order at happinessproject.com. The sooner that you start talking and having conversations, the sooner that you can help each other. That's something that's on repeat in my mind. That's why we're doing this, having this conversation now. I have a couple more things that just come to my mind. For me, when I'm at an event, it's so cool to sit down with big time celebrities like yourself and have this conversation one-on-one.
Not me, man. You want to, no.
But what I'm getting at is people might think on the outside when they watch a show like this, that's like my favorite part. My favorite part is afterwards, one-on-one. I'll stay and meet people for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Whoever wants to talk, take a picture, say, hey. But every single time I speak, someone comes up to me, usually more than one, and say, Brandon, I'm suicidal right now. I don't know where to go, where to ask for help. And that's where we're able, in that 3 to 5 minute conversation, always have a mental health provider with us, get them the help they need at their high school, at their job, at college. I have to imagine for you that face-to-face, one-on-one, seeing a young woman come up to you or parents that may have gone through the same thing as you, is that, I don't know how to say it, the best part of your job, the best part of what you do, that purpose, having that one-on-one meaningful conversation?
No, it's not the best part, because those conversations are never light conversations.
Yeah.
They're very heavy. But I welcome, and like I said, everyone helped us. So I'm going to sit there and I'm going to give you the time that you deserve, and I'm going to listen to your story. And because your story is just as important as Gabby's was, if not more, and we want to be there for everybody. I guess the best part of my job foundation-wise is the video that you just showed me. To be honest with you, like, watching those videos on TikTok and stuff after the documentary, and how Gabby's story helped them, or they saw themselves, it hits you, you know what I mean? And it lets you know that you're on the right path, It's never going to be worth it, but it might help make sense in the long run. At least that's the hope.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it because I don't know, but I know we're not going to stop. I know we're doing the right thing. Because you see all the people that want to help. Like, you're here because we're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And us together, again, mental health, domestic violence. There's a huge connection between the two.
Right.
And really being there. Like, if you have a partner that's having these mental health issues and stuff like that, being sympathetic and being empathetic and really having the conversations, I understand, are not pleasant conversations a lot of the time.
Yeah.
No one wants to admit that they have a problem. It's very difficult, but the more that you can just be supportive and not judgy, and just listen, that's something I had to learn. That's difficult. So I'm a fixer. You know what I mean? I want to fix your problem. This is broken, let me fix it. No, sometimes you're fixing the problem by just listening.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing to learn for me. It was a little difficult to overcome, but I'm in sales. I talk a lot.
Well, that's a good thing for a podcast, because you're talking a lot now.
But it is. It's important to sometimes just be silent and hear.
I know I've been talking a lot about that video, and you just brought it up again, but you mentioned women seeing themselves in Gabby, and that being the best part of it. Having those conversations with those survivors, do you even see Gabby in them? Like the flip side of, wow, I can help my daughter by helping them, almost.
No, you know what I see? I see greatness in them. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Like, they share their stories on how they got out and stuff like that. That shows how strong you are. That shows the strength it took, the bravery it took, the commitment it took, and the selflessness. Because now you put yourself first.
Yeah.
It shows that Gabby's story, as tragic it is and as hurtful and as painful it is for us, maybe there's a purpose. Maybe it's going to help us make sense by doing that. And I want to see that continue. And I'll tell you, for years, do it. If you're in a place where you feel safe and strong enough and comfortable enough of saying your story. You don't have to name names. You don't have to give the scenarios. You can just let people know that there's life afterwards, and a positive life afterwards. Because seeing these men, women, and children thrive afterwards, it helps. It really makes a difference. It really does. And I just hope to see it for years to come. I think that would be more impactful to others, and you'll never know how many stories you've helped create by posting your video. But I guarantee it will. I guarantee you'll inspire at least one, and you might never know. But it'll be one, at least.
Well, you guys as a family, Gabby, are saving lives, are inspiring, making a difference. So from everyone that's watching those videos and watching this and listening, thank you from all of us, because you guys are saving lives and you're making a difference. And unless there's something that I missed that you want to belt out, because I know you love to talk.
I would just say we have a golf outing coming up.
Yes.
June 6th in New York. Willow Creek Golf and Country Club is where it's going to be. If anyone's watching, you know a company that wants to help sponsor the event and stuff like that, or if you're interested in having a foursome or just coming single, there's tickets available at GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. We have some cool clothes and stuff, and all of it helps domestic violence. Like I said, the reason of this golf outing we're doing is for this education program that we're building. And it's not easy building it. It takes a lot of people to do it.
Yeah.
And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that. So that's what everything is going to go towards. And we're not stopping. Between this, missing people, we got a lot of work to do, but together is how we're going to overcome that. And our goal, with everyone's help, is to change that goal from 1 in 3 women to 1 in 4 women, and then maybe to 1 in 5, or 1 in 5 men to 1 in 6, or to 1 in 7. That's the goal. Put us out of business, right? The goal is to never need a domestic violence organization, because we're treating everybody equal. We're just being a nicer person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not rocket science. It's be a nicer person.
Well, and the merchandise also helps. That's all online as well at GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. I'm going to try my best to make it out and play, and also maybe sponsor a whole or work on those sponsorships with you. We can talk about that after this. But the last thing I ask everyone is advice to maybe somebody, when I have an actor wants to get into film, athlete wants to make it to the pros. I'll leave the floor open to you on who you want to give advice to. I mean, I guess I can point it one way of, what would your advice be to maybe someone that is experiencing that in a relationship like Gabby did, or a parent that is trying to cope and trying to heal? What would be your advice to them?
So it's twofold. Really talk to the services. I hate this, I don't want to sound cliche, but they're the ones that have the right guidance, right? The right areas that you can go to. It's always important to find your happy place. For me, it's the water. I love my feet in the sand, listening to the waves. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I go to really just calm myself. So finding what works for you, an outlet, is important to have, some type of hobby where you can just mindlessly kind of go through stuff. For me, for the mindless, like, I'd go play golf.
Yeah.
Like, it was just mindless for me. I just go on my own. I go late in the day, you know what I mean, when no one's on the course.
Yep.
And I'll just go play until I can't, But if I could ask anything, and this is going to sound strange, to all the educators out there, to all the teachers out there, domestic violence is an issue that affects so many, especially in the youth, and they're going to hide it. If you can, and it doesn't have to be from the Gabby Petito Foundation, find even a local organization. Yeah. Try to bring those organizations in. Let them talk. Let them show you some of the programs that they may have, or go to the GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. We have a bunch of different programs or resources you can pick from that work best for your area, and try to bring the discussions of domestic violence, of proper friendships, bullying, stuff like that. Integrate it all into one, because that's what happens, right? Really try to bring the domestic violence conversation in a proper way into your education system, because the more we could do that for their youth today, the less likely you'll have the same numbers tomorrow. And that's really how we're going to eradicate domestic violence, or significantly impact reduce the numbers as much, is by teaching them where to go if you're in it, where to go if you see it happening with a friend or family or loved one, and how to navigate those situations to get out safely, and how to spot it to make sure that you're not in it or walking into it. So those conversations need to happen more and more every day. And the more that the educators can advocate for their students, this is a life skill.
Yes.
I think can help more than anything else that we can do.
I can promise you that will happen. I'm seeing it on my end. You know, I've probably been in 50, 60, 70 school districts over the last year speaking and meeting. And the good part is with the youth, we can make fun of them for being on TikTok too much or doing dances or Snapchat. But when it comes to mental health or being vulnerable or talking about how you're feeling, they are 10 times better than any of us. And so I want to make sure after this won't be the first time that we're working together.
Do you know how many times I was today years old when I learned something new on a TikTok or Instagram reel and stuff like that? All right. So it could be a great learning tool if used correctly.
Correct.
And not using a tool that you have where a lot of eyes are on is simply just wasting it away. There's no sense in doing that. Use it to your advantage.
Well, thank you for sharing Gabby's story and your story and the work that you guys do. To me, you fit this guest list just perfectly.
Not yet. Maybe in 20 years, I'll be worthy of it. I don't think I am now, but I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for opening up, and I'll have to get golfing with you at some point. Do you golf barefoot too?
I do, depending on the course. So because there are some courses that are hoity-toity, like no, you got to tuck in your shirt and wear a belt, and it's got to be a collar. It's fine. Don't give me those. Those are the nice courses where you can really learn the undulations of the greens and stuff like that. But I like to see debauchery on a golf course.
All right. Well,
I want to see golf carts on fire, rolled into a lake, bro. I want to see, to try a Happy Gilmore on the first tee.
All right. Well, when I don't have to catch a flight in 2 hours after our interview, we'll go barefoot golfing and figure it all out. But thank you so much again for coming on The Mental Game. We'll see everyone right back here next week.
Enjoy all.
And that was such a powerful conversation with Gabby's dad, Joe. I can't thank him enough and his wife, Tara, for letting me into their home in Florida this past weekend. I called him last week and just said, man, I want to tell your story. My heart was broken when I watched Gabby on the news, and then that Netflix documentary that came out earlier this year. So many people saw themselves in Gabby, and as we talked about, she is saving millions and millions of lives all over the world. Man, I'm just so lucky to call Joe and Gabby's family friends now. And if you'd like to support the Gabby Petito Foundation, go to GabbyPetitoFoundation.org today, where you can donate, buy shirts, and all of this goes to help raise awareness and raise funds against domestic violence. Also, as he mentioned, the Gabby Petito Foundation golf outing is happening later this summer. If you'd like to be a sponsor or just play in the outing up in New York, go to GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. Again, I can't thank Joe and Gabby's family so much for opening up about something that hurts but can also help save lives all across the world. Next week, another surprise guest here on The Mental Game, and we're going in the ring, WWE style, next week, right back here on The Mental Game.